You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will begin after this question from our characters.
So, Roy.
Yeah.
This is fairly exciting, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, how often do you get to be on top of a giant space whale, floating through space, investigating these cool places, finding cool things, killing cool things, and who knows, we might even find someone who's cool as well. I mean, you are cool, space whale.
So is this peak excitement for you, or tell me a little bit about yourself, Roy? What have you done? Why are you here? Just tell me about your past.
Oh, gee, wow. Oh, wow. I mean, we've done so much. I mean, there was this great time when me and Tigers, we built this boxcar racer, and we were the best in the group. We were flying. It was fantastic. That's how I knew he was going to be really good when he did this sort of stuff, because he's a great builder. He's a fantastic engineer. And you should see him the first time he tried to build his proper weapon. I mean, he wasn't really supposed to be using the tools, but he still managed to make this thing that fired, oh my gosh, what are they called? They're Maluran fruit. He managed to fire a Maluran fruit 5 meters. 5 meters. It was really cool, but it hit our neighbor and we got into a bit of trouble for that, but it was fine. I mean, he was unconscious for a little bit, but that was pretty cool, because then we had to run and hide, and we had to try and hide the weapon, and then his dad and his mom found it, and his dad told him off, and his mom told him off, that said it was amazing, and then gave him the real tools to make a bigger weapon. It was like, oh, that was brilliant. I love that day.
Kay's just smiling as you talk, and it all tumbles out of you with no pause or step, and he just pauses after you finish waffling away and goes, I've never had a droid friend before. I'm glad you're my friend. Yeah.
Oh, gee. I'm glad we know you too. But you know what they say? If you can't find friends, make friends. I mean, you're pretty cool for an organic.
No, I'm not, but thank you.
I mean, not fun, but, cool in a suave kind of way.
Yeah, I could not describe myself as fun. But I'm learning. You're a good teacher.
Me? I mean, I've got some protocols, but I think you already know your alphabet.
You have fun, Roy. I mean, some of it's horrific, but you have fun.
Entertainment. Well, you've got to...
Yeah, I know.
The world is pretty big, and there's a lot of scary things in it. And you got to be able to face those scary things, but I don't think you can face them without being able to enjoy the rest of it, And otherwise, if you can't, you may as well be a droid.
I did not peg you as the wise one of the group. I'm learning. Shall we keep going?
Yeah, let's go blow something up.
It's just occurred to me that Roy is the shining example of, if you can't be a good role model, be a terrible warning.
Hi, my name's Ed Fortune, and I will be the Games Master and Player Wrangler for this episode of Shadows of the Jedi, an actual play Star Wars adventure which you've been listening to thus far. I have some amazing friends who helped me along this journey, and we're going to start with Mikey.
Hi, I'm playing Dalen Kyrane, who's known as Kay. He is a human starfighter Atira striker. His emotional strength is his compassion, and his emotional hatred. So, his emotional weakness is his hatred. His emotional hatred is his weakness. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of works.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Roy. Roy is a modified B1 battle droid with specializations as a bodyguard and heavy, a career as a hired gun, and an obligation to the Bar family.
Hi, I'm Ross. I play Dr. Smetska Amdanelloa, a Syrian consular healer whose emotional strength is his compassion, but his weakness is his obstinacy.
Hello, I'm Adam. I'm playing Tychus Bar. I am a meat popsicle.
That is accurate, and you will be playing a meat popsicle rather than your character for the rest of the session. Stats are 1 all across the board, but it also has the same force powers as Starfighter. There we go.
I'll take it. I've seen its stats.
Go for it.
Where we left the party the last session, they had made a new friend in the form of Benakai, an enormous space leviathan creature, which was remarkably friendly, but also sort of stuck in time in terms of wasn't really up with current events. And it had asked them to do a little bit of cleaning house, which they did with high-powered weapons as they blew their way through essentially the hospitality section of the giant space leviathan that is Benakai, fighting all the way to the potential source of evil, which was some sort of ancient artifact. After carefully examining, figuring out all the angles, working out what was going on. They set off a whole load of traps and have blown a hole in the back of the structure. We start the session as the pedestal has dropped as they have set up some sort of trap, and space is presented in front of them as bits of random debris are starting to drift out. Party, this is an immediate danger as you are exposed to the outside space of the Syria system. But what is kind of nice is you're well illuminated because there's 3 suns in Syria.
Can I ask a question, please, Ed?
Yes, of course.
So the door had sealed behind us.
Yes, it has.
And then this has opened.
Yes.
So is this effectively like venting an airlock? So the atmosphere in this room is being forced out?
What we're getting is, because you are all in fairly competent kind of travellers, if you see what I mean, so what's about to happen is you're all about to start making athletics checks to not get hit by random stuff and get spaced, essentially. You have maybe 10 seconds of, as the door has opened before I start saying things like, you start heading towards gravity wells. So, like, you have a little bit of time.
I turn on the mag boots of my armour.
Yes.
Clunk.
Now, there wasn't that much in here, but what you've noticed is they've kind of left enough pebbles and other random stuff on the floor for it to rush out. If you see what I mean, things are fairly unsecured here. The pedestal's still there, the light is red, there is no sound, everything. There was like an alarm and then suddenly the sound stops as because that's a cool effect. And you are now looking out into the void, pretty much.
Because this is a dangerous situation, and because being exposed to the vacuum of space is one of those things that has been programmed into Roy as an emergency, straight away I'm going to act on my bodyguard. I know technically the skill is for an engaged character, but because he's going to be shortly engaged with debris flying at him, I would like to say that this is a reasonable use of the bodyguard for me to move immediately, either by roleplay or by skill use. I'm putting myself in a defensive position around Bar.
What I'll allow is, with the bodyguard ability, you realise that the pedestal itself and other parts of the structure are starting to detach, and you can quickly angle yourself in the way to protect Bar, but also because you have that skill of quickly assessing danger, or this room's going to turn itself into a hazard.
So Kay, as soon as everything starts kicking in, quick draws his lightsaber and turns it on to level 1, because level 2 and 3, and prepares to deflect anything that comes towards or bat it out of the way or the like.
I think Tychus comes over the comms from our spacesuits and goes, "Well, that wasn't ideal. I'm going to see if I can get this door open. We'll still be fighting the decompression for a few minutes while we get through it, but I should be able to seal it back behind us. This door here wasn't damaged, so it should act as a reasonable airlock once I get us through. Mag boots on, people. Mag boots on." And I think Tychus is going to slowly start ka-chunk-ka-chunk-ka-chunking his way over to the door to this room that's sealed shut behind us, Ed.
Okay.
So you're focusing on opening the door that's behind us, not on closing the door that's just opened?
I didn't think the door had opened so much as the back wall had popped off.
The back wall has popped off.
Oh, it's right, okay. That's my next question, was how big's the hole? Big enough. Right, okay.
Can I have athletics checks from everyone? The difficulty is 2 purple. I will allow Kay to use his lightsaber instead to substitute as you're doing the cool Jedi thing. And Roy can have 2 blue on top for use of the bodyguard skill. I'm going to roll. I think that's a fair use of that ability.
1 success, 2 advantage for me, Ed.
The doc has 2 success, no advantage, but no threat.
Roy has 3 success and 2 advantage.
Just 3 advantage.
Okay, so take 4 strain as you get smacked. However, you can spend some of that advantage on recovering strain.
Well, I will do that. I will recover the strain, most of the strain I have, by hitting the things with my lightsaber. Obviously, I don't quite get all of them, and some of the molten metal or whatever it is, when I slice it in half, splashes against me, and I take...
What we get is this really cool scene where you take out lots of tiny bricks and things, and it's shot in a really impressive kind of way as you take the various bits and pieces, and the music, your background music, takes a kind of wah 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 kind of thing as you then get clobbered by a bit of the altar.
Yeah, got you.
The rest of the party also have advantages if they want to spend them. Let me know if you want to, how you'd like to spend them.
The only thing I was going to say is if, as a result of Kay's failure, he was about to be spaced, I would have spent mine on firing my grapple gun from the shoulder mount on my armour to kind of grab onto the back of his suit and winch him back into the room. But if we don't need that because he's not being explosively voided, then I will use my advantages to help me open the door as I navigate to a good position, basically just by where the mechanics are, and lock myself in place.
What's going on here is because Kay has held his ground and started fighting back, he's not being pushed back. The rest of you are resisting being pushed back by dodging stuff out of the way. Had any of the rest of you failed, you'd have been pushed back. Kay explicitly isn't being pushed back because he's standing his ground. If you see what I mean, that's how it looks. So what we've got going on here is you look at the door, and what's happened is some sort of large plasteel, sort of possible granite, you're not sure, slab has gone in between the door, so that part of the trap has also sealed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In which case, I'm going to hold my advantage for the moment, but I'm going to go over the comms. So, the mechanism to open the door is behind another layer that's slammed down, so we're not going out that way. Benefit is, this room is air sealed and there's only so much atmosphere in here. In about 30 seconds, when it's finished venting, we're just going to be an airless room. With our mag boots and my grapple gear, we might just be able to walk out the hole and scale the back of Ben Akai and walk along his back till we get to the entranceway, I suppose. We just need to weather out the storm as the last of this atmosphere gets vented.
Alright. Sounds like fun.
So, buckle up.
Oh yeah, click, let's go.
The Doctor is sounding slightly put out by the, adrenaline shenanigans, but...
Can I just say, I'm really proud that you've remembered your science.
Are you just simply waiting for the room to decompress?
I think so. I mean, it won't take long with it being a otherwise air-sealed room. And in fact, can I spend my advantages?
You can spend your advantages, yes please.
I will spend my advantages for it to decompress with the rest of us being in an appropriate location that we no longer get any further battered. And he's going to respond to Roy going, "Hey, well, when we were retrofitting the Fire Opal to go out into space, it was something I paid particularly attention to, and when we then had to rapidly make some repairs on leaving Keenabale, it was burned in the forefront of my mind, this sort of stuff. So, yeah, don't ask me about molecular chemistry or anything, but when it comes to voiding rooms into space, at the moment, I'm pretty up on that."
I'm sure there's a great historical adventure that you went on as a kid, which is going to explain this in detail.
So, I'm not going to make anyone roll for this, but as you're waiting for the room to void, what you notice also is the altar has already detached. The weird kind of drawings and symbols on the tiling are also now starting to, in a very specific order, kind of just detach and float away, and you realise basically the entire room is falling apart. So at some point your mag boots are not going to help you because your mag boots are attached to the floor, and the floor is slowly but surely becoming not attached to anything, and it's starting from the back forwards. So it's a very kind of smooth transition, but also the altar space is also kind of sequentially diffusing, as it were.
Does that mean that as more of it leaves, there's actually going to be access to more of the base, so that the decompression is going to take longer, as more of the oxygen-filled atmospheric pressure-filled rooms are going to have to reach equilibrium?
Essentially, it means that this entire area is about to become rough terrain or difficult terrain, because the atmosphere is going and this stuff is just floating there, if you see what I mean.
I'm going to step outside then, I say. And I unclip my mag boots, and I'm going out the hole with the idea of grasping onto the side and flipping myself onto the other side of the roof.
I take it you're doing this carefully whilst you're taking time, you're not panicking.
No, it's space. I'm not scared of space. Space will either kill you or it won't. There's no point in being afraid of it.
That's what they teach you in the academy.
Unless you have a better roll to make, I would like a athletics check.
Yep.
From Kai. 1 purple, unless you're about to argue for coordination.
I think coordination may actually, because athletics is nimbleness and swiftness, and this is more kind of...
This is more navigating difficult terrains. Yeah. Coordination also works. It depends. Athletics is if you're kind of being bullish. Coordination is if you're being careful.
Yeah, I'm not a bullish character, so I will go coordination, I think.
Could I please interject very briefly while Kay's making his way out?
Of course.
Could Tychus be aiming his grapple gun at Kay so that if something goes wrong, I can snag him?
Okay, I'm happy to add an additional blue for the caution.
So 1 success, 4 advantage, and a dark side. I succeed. My advantages, I'm going to spend 1 on getting my strain back up, and the other 3 on, I don't know, being in the right position to have the grapple hook fired up to me on the other side so the others can climb up it.
Okay.
I was going to say, could I suggest that you spend it to have a stable place on the outside to be able to help us?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Lock myself in on the outside and wait for a point that I can get for Tychus's grapple and help everybody else up.
As you kind of pull yourself up and onto the roof of this thing, you get the first view of what Benakai looks like specifically here. This entire building, this entire structure that you're in, has been lovingly crafted. You can kind of see it now where someone's taken 2 of his spines, the long spines, essentially you can see these like eerie glowing blue kind of almost deep sea creature style spines, and they're on either side of you, and wedged in is this kind of structure where his skin has been encouraged to grow over the kind of point, so you can kind of see where it's almost like someone's giving him a piercing, but the piercing is he's so large that this piece of body jewelry is just like a reception center.
Or like a tree, where it kind of, the tree bark kind of grows over and heals around the penny.
That's exactly that sort of thing. And what's happened is you can see that there's windows at the back where they've made areas, so you can see other points as bits of light, where someone very carefully and lovingly built this. And then you look up and you see the 3 stars of the solar system that is Syria.
No, I understand. It's a cybernetic implant. It just happens to be the cybernetic implant he's got. He's a 4 Seasons.
Travel lodge.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you're saying about the stars. Sorry.
So there's 3 suns. Oh, it's casting lots of light. They are purgle everywhere. And you are struck by 2 things. 1, this is beautiful. 2, this is incredibly dangerous. Because space is not that scary to you, but there's a lot going on, and you have to keep your eyes and ears constantly aware, because you're aware that this is an active environment. This is like being in a jungle, but you're in space, so you have all the joys of the fact that space, you can't afford to make any mistakes here, is essentially what
I just want to explain why Kay doesn't think space is scary. Because he flew TIE fighters, if something goes wrong, there's no time to be scared. So it's either fine or you're dead. And that's why he doesn't have that kind of fear of space, because he knows that by the time something does actually go wrong, you're probably dead already. It's like a fighter pilot sort of laissez-faire attitude towards the action of space. You can't be afraid of it. It's trying to kill you, but it's not going to kill you right now.
I'd just like to say at this point, the Doc is frightened of this, and he's putting as much trust as he can in the fact that this is a Tychus bar spacesuit, and now I'm desperately trusting in this man's skill for my life.
You're not in a Tychus bar spacesuit. You're just in one of the random thingamabobs. It's Tychus and Kay that are in the special stuff. But I admire you. I appreciate your faith.
You have got off the rack one, mate. Sorry.
Oh dear.
Your shiny thing is a lab coat that makes you all clean and clever. Yeah, no, it's Tychus and Kay that are like, we are designed to survive in space because we're the ones that, like, I might have to go out on the outside of a ship and make hull repairs while Kay is fighting, and also Kay as a pilot, if something happens and he has to get vented out,
Backtracking a moment, I'm even more terrified. So, carry on.
As a doctor, you are completely aware of what happens during exposure to a vacuum, how long you have, and also what bits of you rupture first. Obviously, being a Syrian, it takes longer for brain death to occur because you've got more brain. So, you've got a little bit more time than like everyone else. But also, you have some air supply and some survival gear on you. Yeah. It's just that you're probably, if things go wrong, you're probably going to be the first to die.
Yeah, I think I'm going to push all my panicking to one brain and just let the other one focus on what I'm doing. Let's get out of here quick, slowly.
Ed, how far away am I from them now? How high is the roof?
So it's one story. So you've gone, like, you can move, you can scramble 20 foot.
Okay.
Because this entire structure is essentially on one plane. There's no upstairs. It's a Four Seasons, but it's also a very big garage in one way or another. Tychus and Roy, what are you doing? I believe there's a grapple involved.
Yeah, I've got the grapple gun that was previously part of Clementine, has now been remounted onto a shoulder mount a la the Predator on Tychus's new armour. So he is just going to be making his way to this opening, possibly forming part of a I'm not going to say human chain, because none of us are human, but a PC chain between the Doc, Roy and Tychus to get to the opening without being, shunted out into space against his volition, and shooting his grapple up to where Kay's indicated, because there is gravity there as a result of being on something this big, isn't there? It's not a zero-G environment, so...
It's not a zero-G environment, there is microgravity, so there is a response. However, it's very low gravity.
Oh, so when it's landed then, Tychus will probably just grab the Doc and Roy and hold them to him, because Tychus is pretty brawny as well, and winch the three of them up to join Kay at the safe location that Kay's pointing out.
I take it Kay is coordinating?
Yeah.
Do I want to roll?
Between us, we've probably got enough advantages still floating around.
Actually, do you know what? I am going to make you make a roll for that.
It's technically ranged light if I'm firing the grapple. Range doesn't matter, it's explicitly purple. Purple, 2 boosts for aiming.
I'm going to flip a dark side point.
I'm going to counter flip. That end pool after the 2 flips is 1 green, 1 yellow, and 2 boost versus 1 red and 1 purple.
Can I argue for another boost because I am getting in the way? Basically, can I give you, because I had 3 advantages to make it easy for you to get up here, can I spend those advantages on giving you extra boosts?
I'm happy for you to do that, and also you can point out things that the grapple can be attached to. For example, the 2 glowing blue spines on either side.
3 success, 2 advantage.
How would you like to spend that advantage?
I would like to spend those advantage that I don't need to make any further athletics or anything roll to winch myself up with Roy and the Doc. The microgravity, the motor in the grapple gun and everything else is sufficient to just winch us all up safe and secure and reconnect us via our mag boots to the platform next to Kay.
Cool. I'm going to ask for one more roll, which is I want everyone to make a survival check. Difficulty is 1 purple.
Okay, that's surprisingly low. I'm not, arguing for it to be higher. I'm just saying surprisingly low.
Roy has 1 success, but 2 threat.
The Doc has no successes, so that's a failure, but 3 advantage.
And you wanted it to be more difficult.
No, I didn't. I just thought it would be more realistic if it'd be more difficult.
2 success, 2 advantage.
2 failure, 2 advantage.
Ooh.
My survival's bobbins, it's a single green.
So, what the Doc and Kay realise is that the journey ahead of you is going to be difficult because the organic material is going to get in the way of your mag boots. And as Tychus is like totally secure on it, if you see what I mean, and Roy realizes just a little too late that essentially Tychus is standing in the wrong place. So the pair of you take a strain each. You're still, with a plan, you're still competent space explorers, as it were, but the fact that you're in this weird place, this weird organic system, has taken you back a moment. It's almost that kind of like, again, that note of, I am super competent, bonk, as something, as a traffic cone hits you in the head, sort of a gag. It's the same call back to the previous gag where there's kind of like bonk, oh, sort of thing. And as you all kind of underline, just as the Doc and Kay realize, oh, this is actually not as safe as there's a almost comedy moment that causes a little bit of strain, but not too much damage. What is the plan for crawling across the back of a giant space whale?
How far away? Can we see where we're aiming for? Can we see where the ship is?
So part of that survival check was also figuring that out. You can spend those advantages to work out the map as to where you need to go. You need to crawl over this flesh, this skin, and then drop down.
Okay, but how far?
That's a very good question. You reckon it's going to take about 5 to 6 minutes to negotiate across?
Is the doc looking panicked and stressed still, having been faced with the vast emptiness of space?
So no, the doc isn't panicking. The doc is, as you say, he's looking at the other three who are moving with what appears to be a decent amount of caution and professional movement and lack of panic, and he doesn't want to be the first one to, trip anyone up.
So Roy is going to try and be quite confident about this because he realises this is a fantastic educational experience. And he does acknowledge the beauty of where they are. Because normally we're busy doing a lot of work and stuff, but he's like,
Oh, wow. I mean, how often do you get to see stars without an atmosphere between you and them? Just look at them. Just look at everything around us. This is amazing. Look at where we are. This is the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen.
As space goes, it's pretty good.
Roy, as a note, you're the only person, because you are a robot and operate on radio frequencies, the spines make a noise as they go up, the kind of these RGB lighting strips that form its body. They kind of do this ratcheting kind of powering up noise. The rest of the party can't hear it. You can, because you're a machine and you're tuned into radio waves. But it's got its own little beautiful song going on that's like it's kind of constant movement.
The doc is going to look at the stars for a moment, though, and appreciate this. It's not necessarily going to help because, space, but it's going to appreciate this.
Tychus, can you loosen out your grappling hook? I think we can get across.
Tychus is clenching hold of the flesh with all four of his arms, and it's a bit like, yep, I can, absolutely, yeah, okay, and loosens the grappling hook and reels it back in, and then kind of unclips the shooting mechanism so it can be extended out like a vacuum cleaner cord,
yeah,
which he kind of passes to Kay, and then returns to gripping the meat of Benakai's back with all hands, and looks kind of at Kay and Roy and goes, I agree that this is a beautiful once-in-a-lifetime sight, but I think I'd enjoy it more if there was something more secure that I could clip my mag boots to, because I don't like being I don't trust the flesh as much as I trust the metal. And I think he's like lying on all four like a spider or a lizard with all of his limbs kind of splayed and trying to grip on.
I understand. I'll see if I can find something. He clips the grapple hook to the back of his flight suit, and then taking 3 or 4 steps towards where we're aiming for, dives and pushes himself along at quite low level. I mean, literally just pushing himself along at maybe a foot off the ground. There's a certain amount of gravity here, so eventually he'll touch back down, but I'm trying to get myself as far along as possible so I can hold on and then they can reel themselves across. We'll basically do leapfrog towards where we need to go.
So I'm going to say that's a coordination check. Difficulty is 2, and I'm going to flip a dark side.
I would. It's silly dangerous.
Oh, just remember that there is a small amount of gravity here, but that means that any small movement to remove yourself from the surface is going to have a large effect. It's not going to be equal. So if you push off to make a small jump, you could find yourself traveling a lot further than you think.
Oh, that's a problem. I'm going to spend my light side point to make 1 success and 3 advantages.
3 advantages. How would you like to spend those advantages?
I don't know, actually. Maybe on their coordination checks to get back to us as I attach myself to the whale, the length of his grapple further up, and hold on while they spool themselves over to me.
Almost like a belaying point.
Yeah, I'm going to say that you find like a nub that seems to be... essentially, you find like what might have been an antenna from the building, and like a spine's grown over it, and you realise that's quite secure, so you kind of tie it off onto there as well, so you've got like a belay point. So you've got like an additional point of contact. And with those 3 advantage, I'm going to allow everyone else to make coordination checks with 3 blue.
Could I argue for athletics instead?
Coordination and athletics, depending on which skill you're using, depends on what happens to the threat or failures, if you see what I mean. Because a coordination failure is different to an athletics failure.
Yeah, I'm scampering across like a lizard, using all 6 limbs to hold me in place so that I don't, leap into space.
Like a General Grievous.
Yeah, I'm General Grievousing rather than K-ing because Tychus doesn't like it.
But you can hand over hand over hand over hand on the abseil, which is,
Or I could just wait and then just hit the retract button and just reel myself into the belay point when everyone else is there. Whee!
I mean, that's very on character for Tychus. Do that.
I think that's what I'm going to do. Does that mean I don't need to roll? Because I could just... Or is that now a coordination check so I don't overshoot and go too far? Wah!
Or plough straight into me and knock us both into space.
Yeah.
I think that's still an athletics roll because you're just doing it in an extremely 90s sports way, if you see what I mean. You're going extreme.
The Doc's approach is not much more gainly or graceful because the Doc doesn't do this space stuff and his coordination is terrible. So I have 2 advantage and 1 failure.
I have 1 advantage and 1 failure.
Roy is also, he did an athletics check because he's kind of having fun, so he wasn't being particularly overly cautious, which means that his failure and 5 advantage is that he's failed, but he's still having a great time.
Is the failure that we have not stopped at the belay point, but we can burn it all with our advantages, that what happens is everybody else goes ahead, Tychus goes, I have a much better plan. Whips in, grabs these 2 as we go, hits K, detaching, we all go flying over, and then just as we're about to totally hit space, fire the grapple hook down and claps on the back of the Fire Opal. It's like, oh, okay!
I think what you've done there, because the Fire Opal's like in the space garage, so what you've done there is you've overshot, and then you've hit like another part of Benakai, and you've kind of Spider-Man webbed yourself. Like, was the grapple's just like spinning round as you see it, and like Kay, who's not involved in this nonsense, is just watching you as you all just kind of like bind yourself to just outside the building, and you're all like on this like weird bit of space whale outcropping, if you see what I mean.
Ed, that works, because I'm just watching passively. Then I realise I'm attached to Tychus by the grapple, and he's zipping it back in. So there's a second or so where I'm like... and then whoop, and I go with them.
You smack straight into them in a kind of, frog on a dash on a windshield kind of then hops away. The kind of surprised look, and you all find yourself in what can be best described as a pickle, as you have successfully gotten to the other side. Gotten down, you can see the entranceway, you can see the Fire Opal, you can see that it's like now inside the kind of the thing, you can see this little force field, you can walk straight in. It's just that you've now kind of all pilloried yourself onto this weird kind of spine that's sticking out into space.
We're all kind of squished together, and Kay, being squished up against the Doc's mask, looks at him from just inches away, because we're both like really close, and goes,
"Team building exercise." Yeah.
I think your mag boot is stuck to my leg.
Oh, is that you? I'm sorry.
Is it really a Star Wars campaign unless they're all stuck in a net somewhere and bound up somewhere?
However, that was a perfect opportunity to experience something called the slingshot maneuver, as the gravity as we went round that small outcropping gave us a bit of a boost of speed.
I cannot wait until we're back on solid metal.
I mean, technically, one of Kay's feet is.
Yeah, I'm on solid metal already. Thanks, Roy.
Roy picks this up on the radio waves. Everyone else picks this up through the Force. You hear Ben Akai going,
"Is everything okay?"
It's all fine. Everything's fine here. How are you?
No, but we're coming aboard soon.
How are you breaking the rope? How are you breaking the binding? Because you're currently trapped. You're currently bound.
I'm looking at Tychus.
So, I obviously have a plan for if this ever happens. Definitely. If I can just... Okay, so, if you can just reach into that pouch on my hip that's currently jabbing into Kay's back, and pull out of there the fusion cutter and pass that to Roy's hand that is next to your head, and then Roy, if you can just cut the rope. Now we have to make sure that we do this kind of synchronized way.
Cut the rope. Got it.
Boy, you already have another sort of metal cutting tool in your hand right now.
Yes, but I don't want Roy to activate the lightsaber while we're all strapped together, which is why I'm giving Roy a fusion cutter.
I have to try. I am the DM. Okay, there is a moment where you all experience the microgravity and you fall down on a kind of slump, And in front of you is the entrance to the whatever we're calling Benakai's hospitality centre in front of you. And I'm assuming you're walking in like big heroes.
Like this was all planned, like cats, when just like the second after they've fallen off something, where they're very much like, all of this was planned. This was all planned and we're very cool.
Slow motion and kind of doing the poses.
Mirror shades on, not looking at explosions.
I do not take my helmet off to put mirror shades on. I just want to point that out.
There's a cool shot where, as Benakai moves and like the suns move as well, so you get kind of sunrise effect as you walk in, and there's someone somewhere is playing heavy metal guitar, and you walk into the area, and again you see wine, you see your ship, you see wine ship, and you see the tiny little Jedi starfighter, and there's a
so you're all alive.
We might have made a little bit of a mess. I'm sorry.
It feels much more. I can feel it again now. Whatever was getting in the way is gone. I see you found it. Good.
Yeah.
What is it?
It was given to me to look after. What did they say it was? What did he say?
Roy sort of takes it out and is looking at it and presses a couple of buttons.
It turns on. It is the littlest lightsaber blade, and it's like you've seen a cutting point before because Tychus uses them all before. It is, to your robot eyes, the finest. Like, you feel like you could cut the chains of the universe with this. It's so fine that the cutting point is so powerful.
The first time you swing it, you cause an atomic explosion and we all die, so you ignite hydrogen.
Essentially, it feels like it's so fine that if it was any finer, it would be a nuclear fission hazard.
But it's not very long though, the blade, is that right?
It's a very small blade. It's essentially a scalpel rather than a lightsaber blade.
Right, I mean, the doc would identify that as being very surgical, would try and imagine there's a medical application for that.
Does it get bigger?
He's pressing a lot of buttons, just like...
Please tell me you're not pointing it at someone while you're pushing the buttons.
No, Roy, it's very cold out here.
You start pressing buttons, nothing seems to happen. All the rest of you who are force sensitive, there's this moment of you just going, oh, stop that. When someone plays like a tune that's like at this slightly high pitch and you can't quite hear it, but you want them to turn it off. You get like a kind of high-pitched whine, but it's not your hearing, it's your connection to the cosmos.
Someone's scraping nails down the chalkboard of the Force.
Yes, that is perfectly put. Someone is scraping nails on the chalkboard of the Force. It's when Roy moves it. It's when Roy moves the thing and starts pressing with the buttons, and you're like, oh, don't do that, sort of thing. And then Benakai goes,
I was told it's a tool. It's not dangerous, it's not evil, and it's not good. But most things aren't light or dark, they're somewhere in between.
You can feel that though, as Roy, if you can just stop shaking it around.
That's making my everything.
How do we turn it off?
I would take it away with you. It seems to have caused a problem for me over the time. It was left here a very long time ago, most ignored. I think time has made something like it's time for it to be with me is no longer. But take it away, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It's a little personal.
Feel free, I can always say no.
How old are you?
That's a very good question. This version of me? I've seen stars fall. I've seen civilizations fall. Don't really care. I know eventually I'll get old so that I can't be anything, and then a new version of me will appear.
That's kind of like a droid. Sometimes parts get repurposed into something new. But you're still kind of though. I like you. You're cool.
I like you as well. You're just noisy enough. Why? Could you make some arrangements?
Wine kind of wakes up after everyone goes, oh, yes. I'm going to do some cleaning now. Can I help any of you?
I just want to be sure, just so we've not gone past the moment here, we are inside the space dock where the Fire Opal is, and we are now airlocked in.
There's that kind of force field effect, ray shield thing, that stops the atmosphere from coming out, so you are safe.
Okay.
If you jump out the ray shield, you won't be safe.
Okay, well that was not the intention at this point. My intention was initially to look out through this field if the stars of Saria are still visible, and then to look at the others and go, right, does anybody need any healing, anything like that? Anybody need any attention?
I'm good.
I could do with a wee bit of patching up, but we can always do that as we're pulling away. If we finished here, back to the original plan, I imagine, off to Saria to find this temple of the Espectu there that we need to frag the hut statue of, and then see if that points us the way to where to go next, I suppose.
So yes, on Saria, I'm happy with that. Maybe not necessary to a temple straight away, because I have a sudden yearning to just be on home soil now, because having been out in the vacuum of space for a bit, and also let's not waste too much time before we heal people. I'm going to treat people now because I don't know what's going to happen next.
When you say I need to get home, you get because part of what Benakai communicates is through emotion, and you get this feeling of like that low chuckle. There's a sense of humour to it. It's like,
Oh, I remember Syrians. Yes, you should go home very soon.
Well, that's not ominous at all.
Yeah, should I feel foreboding or comfort from that?
it's comfort. He's being he's doing that thing of going wink wink essentially, whereas not really understanding what the wink is, but for a long time people have explained it to him the wink. So he's kind of like, there's a cosmic wink coming from the space whale. Wine huddles off. He comes away and goes, so it's all safe, yes? You've gotten rid of all the things that might eat me.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a droid. They won't eat you.
And he's got like this kind of essentially janitorial tool as he starts. He opens the airlock and goes, "Oh, lots of work! Oh, fantastic!" And like starts repairing the area.
So are we going now?
You can come back anytime you wish. If you wish to stay, you can.
If we know where you are.
Oh, now that you know who I am, I'm sure you can talk to me. Just open your mind.
Roy is going to, in the only way he sort of can for something so big, he's going to throw himself on the floor and try and give the whale a big hug. Just because he really likes Bentukai. He's bigger, more awesome than anything he's seen before, and he gets the impression that this would be a cool adventure to live on the back of a space whale and see the universe and the galaxy. But he's happy to leave because he's going with Bar, but he doesn't have force powers, so he can't give this big impression. But you can see him lying on the floor, trying to give it a hug, and thinking as hard as he can with all his little circuits.
I'm gonna miss you.
Are you okay there, little friend?
Yeah, you're cool. I'd love to spend more time with you, but we gotta go.
Please do come back and spend as much time as you want. You are a droid. Time doesn't matter much to beings like us.
Well, it does. That's cool. Okay, gotta go. Bye.
So while this is happening, Kay's walked over to the Jedi Starfighter, and he's checking it out like you would do a hot rod or it's the pinnacle of the Republic fighter and he it's the sort of thing he really, really likes. So
It's a Delta X, which is essentially one of the early versions of the Starfighter, because your character is into this. It's Quen Hangar Systems. It's back in the day, like even before they started designing this. This is where a lot of modern design starts, essentially. So this is a bit like finding an early model Ferrari in a farmyard somewhere, if you see what I mean. It's again much like your existing ship. It's an old cool thing.
Okay, reckon we can fit that in the cargo bay.
maybe.
Bit of a project for in between times.
Maybe.
If you want that, you can have that. He's not coming back for it.
I'd really like it, but
Let's see if we can load it up then. Something to remember by. Something to work on during like hyperspace journeys.
do you think you might be, because it's going to be difficult getting it in from here, do you think you might be canny enough to get the ship out and into space so I can fly it in?
Aye, probably.
Do you reckon it'll fly out of here no problem? You reckon it's space-worthy? It's not been flown in a while, but it's not also been touched by anything.
I mean, technically, there's not much gravity. If we can just lift it up and float it with a little thrust, it'll move in that direction for a while and we can pick it up.
Aye, just stick it in the back and we can tinker on it when we're...
Yeah.
Roy, there's an astromech port here. Just clip in there as well and give me a bit of a hand.
Sure thing, buddy.
And yeah, if at all possible, between Tychus and Kay backs the Fire Opal out, drops the cargo bay down. Tychus and Roy, between the two of them, float the Delta into the cargo bay.
It is essentially a fighter ship / go-kart, because like Deltas are small, but this is small. Like this is the early version of the Delta where they were like, yeah, we want this to be tight. It's like a razor of a. It's almost essentially just a flying triangle.
It's kind of weird, and it might make it a little bit more difficult. But Kay, you can see in the same way that a child with a new toy is fascinated by it, and as you're loading it into the cargo bay, Kay is in the thing, just checking over the flight systems and things like that, and trying and just it's something that's clearly gets him excited about these sort of things, and he doesn't really get to a level of excitement. He's quite a stoic kind of guy, and this is something that obviously kicks in for him.
We should totally try and find a TIE fighter so we can play these against each other and play Age of the Empire, but like with really big models. Pew, pew, pew.
So you get on board the ship, and slowly but surely, like, okay, it's quite interesting leaving something like Benakai, because it's quite a low gravity, so it's kind of like it's like leaving the surface of an asteroid or a moon, so it's like got that kind of drop off and flip. But it's so large at the same time that you're still negotiating mass,
yeah,
beyond the point that you normally would. There's kind of drop off and flip, and then there's kind of like another coil of this enormous Leviathan. So you drop off and flip again, and you kind of eventually escape its gravity.
Oh, Space Whale, we've gotta say goodbye to Benakai. Everybody, Space Whale. I've had a lovely time, but we must fly. We know that you'll survive until the stars all end. Until the universe goes black, you'll be my friend. Oh, Space Whale. It's nice to say hello, but now goodbye. Goodbye. It's nice to say hello, but now goodbye.
So from the cockpit, Kay gives one of his rare smiles as he listens to this going over the tannoy, sighs, and just after smiling just flips off the communication so he can't hear the back, and then off we go to the Doc's home world.
And you head towards Syria Prime, and as your ship drifts towards it, you recognize the distinctive giant triangle shapes of Imperial Star Destroyers. I think that's a good place to leave it.
But before we leave you, this episode's patron is the ominously titled Reaper S. Thank you very much for backing the show, Chief. We really appreciate it. And real talk here for a second, it couldn't have come at a better time, because all our hosting costs have recently gone up and we're now having to pay for Zencastr, which previously we hadn't been doing. So yeah, there's been a few more outgoings from the old Force Majeure HQ than we had been used to for the last few years. So it really does make a difference. Thank you very, very much for that. And thank you to everyone, all of our patrons, for backing us as much as they do, and for our listeners for supporting us and listening to the show. We couldn't do this without you. We do this for you, and also for my ego. You know, that kind of goes without saying. But we're glad you're enjoying it. You look after yourselves, my loves. Stay safe, remain delightful, and we will see you next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Edge Studios. Our intro music is by the amazing Sly Fox Audio. Check out more of her work at soundcloud.com/SlyFoxAudio. Our outro music is Suburban Outlaw instrumental version by Forget the Whale, used with gratitude under a Creative Commons license. Many of the sound effects and soundscapes are created using Sirenscape, because epic games need epic sounds. If you're enjoying the show and want to support us, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod, where for as little as $1 a month you get access to outtakes, adverts, various other stuff, and my fortnightly ramblings. You can drop us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod, or you can leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to interact with us, there's a few ways you can do that. We are on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter as @forcemajeurepod, and we're over on Mastodon as @forcemajeurepod at dice.can. You can also join our Discord, link in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening and being with us as we tell these stories. We hope you are having fun, and we will see you next time.